Severe storms left more than 70,000 customers without power this afternoon. Some of the hardest hit areas were in the Big Sandy, but now those storms have moved out and nicer weather, much nicer weather, is moving in for the weekend. Meteorologist Cameron Aaron is live at the Perry County Fair at the Perry County Park with the latest. Cameron?
Yeah, Steve, the weather has actually turned out to be pretty nice here this afternoon at the Perry County Park. The Aussie Kingdom Animal Show just started momentarily ago behind my shoulder there. So if you are looking for something to do this afternoon or this evening, go ahead and come on down to the 2022 Perry County Fair. Now here in Perry County, not the only place looking at really good weather this afternoon. Let's take a live look over at I-75 in Mount Vernon. All is quiet once again over in that portion of Rockcastle County, and we are looking at that over there this afternoon. But check this out though, the weather was stormy earlier today, as Steve mentioned. A couple of batches of stronger storms, one near the Mountain Parkway and one over southern Kentucky, and those did produce a handful of damage reports. But thankfully we are looking to stay dry for most of us this afternoon and into this evening. A few showers over portions of Pike County and into our Virginia counties as well. But check this out. This is the big story today, well below average for people like over in Prestonsburg and Pikeville, only in the upper 60s this afternoon. Dew points a little bit high in the upper 60s and lower 70s, but the good news is we are tracking some cooler and drier air as we get into this weekend. Tonight, temperatures falling into the lower 60s, maybe a stray shower or two, but most of us will stay dry. Now coming up, Steve, I have your complete forecast and what you can expect for next week coming up.
All right, Cameron, thank you. Former Kentucky basketball player Mike Pratt has died. He was 73. Pratt had a storied career on and off the court. He was a two-time first-team All-SEC selection in his playing days and spent 2 decades as the color analyst for UK basketball radio broadcasts. Above all, network manager for the UK Sports Network Curtis Birch says he was a friend to everyone.
I got to have dinner with him before the NCAA tournament, and we were discussing, that we had a child on the way, me and my wife, and he was giving me some fatherly advice. And so, all the basketball stuff was great, but those are the moments that meant the most.
We have more reaction to the death of Mike Pratt on WYMT.com. Carbon monoxide is a colorless and odorless gas, making it more dangerous if something goes wrong. Carbon monoxide poisoning can result in death and usually occurs when a fuel-burning appliance or machine like a furnace, heater, or generator is not working properly. You should always have detectors in your homes in case there is a leak.
Carbon monoxide is an odorless gas. It's a product of combustion. So that's why it's so important to have these detectors installed in your home or business, because it's an odorless gas and you won't be able to smell it.
Of course, we saw the tragic results of carbon monoxide poisoning yesterday in Breathitt County when 2 women were found dead. Now, it's recommended you have the alarms on every floor of your home and test them once a month to make sure they are working properly. President Joe Biden announced several new initiatives on climate, clean energy, and food security during a meeting this morning with global leaders. CBS's Skylar Henry is in Washington with those details.
President Biden convened a virtual meeting of the Major Economies Forum on Energy and Climate Friday, where he called on world leaders to do more to slash methane leaks in an effort to slow the warming of the planet.
We flare enough gas to offset nearly all of the EU's gas imports from Russia. And so by stopping the leaking and flaring of this super potent greenhouse gas and capturing this resource for countries that need it, we're addressing 2 problems at once.
The conference comes as gas prices continue to soar. The president blamed Russia's invasion of Ukraine for disrupting the energy market and urged countries to ramp up production of zero-emissions vehicles.
Over the long run, we can remove the pain of volatile gas prices and reduce transportation emissions by putting more zero-emission cars on the road.
The president also touted the bipartisan infrastructure law passed by Congress, which includes more than $20 billion for clean energy projects. He also challenged other countries to follow the United States lead and invest more in clean energy.
These are all achievable goals, in my view. And if we all commit to doing our part, we'll get it done.
The president also addressed food shortages worldwide and issued a challenge to make fertilizer more accessible. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Washington.
The White House says inability to access fertilizer is a problem in many low-income countries, and in most major economies, more than 50% of fertilizers do not reach the intended crop. Senator Rand Paul refused to speak with a federal judge about a privacy bill he is blocking. U.S. District Judge Esther Salas's son was shot and killed outside her home by a disgruntled attorney who had appeared before her court. Legislation that would prohibit the publication of private information of federal judges has been blocked in the Senate several times because of Senator Paul. He says he supports the bill but wants members of Congress to be included as well. Alabama authorities are trying to figure out what led to a deadly shooting at a church in a Birmingham suburb. The shooting happened at St. Stephen's Episcopal Church at Vestavia Hills yesterday after 6 p.m. Authorities say a 71-year-old man who attended the church occasionally opened fire at a potluck dinner, killing an 84-year-old man and a 75-year-old woman. An 84-year-old woman later died at a local hospital from her injuries. Reverend John Burris, the church rector, was out of the country at the time.
Deeply moved by the radical support of love from many people reaching out from all over the country.
We need everybody out there, whatever your faith or your belief system is, to pray, to think, to meditate, to just send love to this community, because they're going to need all of it.
Investigators say the Alabama gunman acted alone and say there is no additional threat to the Vestavia Hills community. According to a recent FBI report, the number of active shooter incidents has skyrocketed, last year jumping more than 50% from the previous year and more than 96% from 2017. The Texas House Investigative Committee is holding a second hearing on last month's school shooting in Uvalde after first meeting last week. Thursday, they were set to review evidence and hear testimony, all in an effort to get answers about the response to the mass shooting that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Officials have said the gunman was in adjoining classrooms for more than an hour as law enforcement stood in the hallway and as children inside called 911 and screamed for help. The panel says it may release its preliminary findings before the full probe is complete, which may be ready by the end of the month. Newly released data found abortion rates increased in the United States from 2017 to 2020. Abortion rights group Gutmaker Institute released the survey Wednesday. It found there were more than 930,000 abortions in 2020. That's up from 862,000 in 2017. Data also showed 1 in 5 pregnancies ended in abortion in 2020. The group says abortion rates had been decreasing since 1981. Experts say access to better birth control contributed to the previous decline. Dutch authorities say they foiled an attempt by a Russian spy to gain access to the International Criminal Court by pretending to be an intern. They say a suspected operative of Russia's military intelligence service posed as a 33-year-old man from Brazil and successfully applied for the job at the ICC in The Hague. But when he arrived in the Netherlands, he was deemed a potentially very high threat and refused entry. The ICC is investigating allegations of Russian war crimes in Ukraine, so the imposter gaining access to the court would have been highly valuable to Moscow. Coming up on First at 4, it's a day of remembrance and celebration marking the end of American slavery. But as many mark Juneteenth, companies are being called out for trying to make a profit.
And a beautiful weekend is in store across the mountains, but what can you expect for next week? I have those details coming up.